It was like a bell curve, Will. It was like the growth that I was seeing by doing personal development, the kind of traditional stuff, was good. It was very gradual. And then when I started listening to activations, it was this bell curve of like, whoa.
You mentioned marrying these different therapeutic tools. What are this entourage effect of different things all in one?
Yeah, so it's basically like a movie soundtrack mixed with a pep talk, mixed with self-image psychology and neuroscience principles. Like
You were mentioning it earlier. I want to give people that two-step process that they can start doing right now. Let's get into it.
Okay, so
Mimi, welcome to the podcast.
thank you, Dr. Will. I'm so happy to be on.
So you reminded me, because I know you, but I forgot that we did a podcast together
Ages ago.
And thanks for having me on your podcast. I love it. Thank you.
Oh, of course. I don't even have it anymore. So that was a good 8 years ago. I think I had you on, and I was still in
Wow.
my like 200 square foot apartment in London at the time. So basically everything has changed since then.
Everything's changed since then. 8 years ago? Oh man, you could tell we've been doing this for a long time, but that's crazy. I never would have guessed it was 8 years ago. All right, so what? Let's catch up. What have you been up to? You mentioned your life being so different. Like, what's been going on?
Yeah, wow. It really, since 8 years ago, since we first connected, that's pretty much been the most my life has changed in that past 8 year period. And now I help people transform their lives with a unique approach to identity work, self-image psychology through a new type of audio called activation. So how my life has changed over the past 8 years has been quite dramatic. I was always very much into personal development, and that's actually what led me to start posting online and on social media and having my podcast back in the day all about that. And always been very interested in self-help and personal growth after I'd been through quite a dark time before that. I didn't like who I was back in the day before I really jumped into all of this work. I wasn't treating my body well. I was a lot heavier than I wanted to be. My finances were not where I wanted them to be. I didn't have the relationships I wanted. Kind of, 360 was just not the version of myself that I felt proud of. And I definitely needed a change. So I dove into personal development work. I actually ended up moving to London. This is around that time. I started my online magazine, my podcast, very ambitious back then to try to make, career for myself. And I was trying all of the personal development tools out there. I was reading all the books, trying all the things, and trying to journal every day, wake up at 5 a.m., do a morning routine. I did all the things. And yes, it was working, somewhat. I was starting to see incremental changes in my life. But it wasn't until I started to record my own unique visualizations that I would then layer certain cinematic music and frequencies into, and listening to these audios throughout my day, that I started really seeing my life change. And I'll give you some background as to why I decided to create and put all this effort into these audios. So one of the things that everyone was telling me to do back then was meditate. And I couldn't really stick to it. I always had it on my to-do list, and I would just always, never tick it off. And then I'd feel guilty and shame. And, I knew how powerful certain things like visualization was, but I just didn't understand how traditional meditation could help me become my future self, the version of myself that I want to be. And so I also didn't really want to sit down and close my eyes and, sit and think about nothing for 20 minutes. I wanted to go and feel invigorated and energized and go live my best life. So basically, I just intuitively decided to take out the voice memo app on my phone one day and give myself this visualization kind of future self pep talk. And then I went on GarageBand and layered in inspirational music because I know how music makes you feel alive. And then I would listen to these audios. I made dozens of them. I'd listen to them in everyday moments while I was getting ready for my day, while I was going on this bus to get to work, while I was working out. And then it was like a bell curve, Will. It was like the growth that I was seeing by doing personal development, the kind of traditional stuff, was good. It was very gradual. And then when I started listening to activations, it was this bell curve of whoa, holding on to like my seat because I was like, my life was changing way too quickly. It
Wow.
was incredible. So that's what has led me here. I'm now an author of Activate Your Future Self with Hay House, was released a couple months ago. And I now own activations.com, which is helping hundreds of thousands of people use this new, unique audio to transform their
I
lives.
love it. And I am such a fan of activations. That's why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because I've been doing it myself and I've noticed such a difference in my life. And this is something that I live and breathe anyways with telehealth patients and like dealing with the physiological and the mind body connection and how they're interconnected, inextricably, and how, there's different paths with different people, different tools within the toolbox, certainly. But this is something that I've been experimenting with, and I've noticed such a shift in my state, in my nervous system, in my life, and I really wanted to share it with everybody. And we have people can try it for free for 2 weeks, right?
Oh yeah, we have a special. If you guys, feel connected to this at all, when listening to this episode, you can try it out for 2 weeks free. I think
Yeah.
Dr. Will have the
Yeah.
URL
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
link.
So guys, I want you to try this. It's activations.com/Will Cole. Again, that's activations.com/Will Cole. Check out, try it out, 2 weeks. I know you're going to love it, guys, just as much as I do. So let's kind of break it down. Like, what you mentioned, marrying these different therapeutic tools, you mentioned cinematic music, sort of the state change of music, visualization, and it's sort of this, in a way, the way that I see it, and that's why I'm having you on to sort of set the record straight. It's sort of this entourage effect of different things all in one. Is that how you see it, or no?
Yeah, so it's basically like a movie soundtrack mixed with a pep talk, mixed with self-image psychology and neuroscience principles. Like literally just a really high vibe audio that makes you feel like you're the main character of your life.
Yeah.
And you can listen to this while you're out living. And it really immediately impacts your energy. It immediately makes you feel different. And all of my work, Will, comes down to, if you want to create the life of your dreams, you must first become the version of you that has it. And it's all about identity. It's all about self-image work. It's all about becoming your future self, who you can be in this moment, by the way. I always say you can be your future self now. That's one of our taglines. And, it's all about embodying the energy, the thoughts, the beliefs, the personality of the person that you want to be, the version of yourself that you aspire to be, the version of yourself that has all the things you want.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about that. And these audios remind you to be your future self now, to be who you want to be now in everyday moments. And that makes it easy for habit stacking. That makes it easy to really just put on in the background of your life and not need to add it to your to-do list. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like listening to a podcast. I listen to podcasts when I'm in the mood to learn. I listen to podcasts when I want to hear a conversation. I also listen to music when I just want to tune out and, listen to something without words. I listen to an audiobook when I'm in that kind of mood. And then I listen to activations when I want to feel inspired and really just reset my energy and start feeling alive again.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So can you talk about maybe some of the, like, why that's so important? Because I've heard it over the years from different researchers and teachers, how, like, exactly what you've tapped into with activations is feeling and embodying your future self now, why it's so important versus just being sort of rote and showing up and not really embodying the somatically the feeling that you're trying to feel, why that's so important to achieve the goals of whatever you're meditating for, using any sort of practice. That embodiment is very, very important as far as what the research, both anecdotal and otherwise, show, right?
Absolutely. Well, this is only for people that want to change something in their life.
Yeah.
This type of audio is for people that actively want to improve their life. And the reason that this audio is so deeply effective at helping you transform your life is because of many science-backed facts. So the first one is, and you obviously know all of this because you are super smart, but I'm just going to repeat kind of the main things that I like to share when it comes to this work.
Yeah.
One of the main things that listening to activations helps with, because you're listening to these audios in everyday moments, so it really helps take advantage of classical conditioning. We all know Pavlov's dog theory. Pavlov rings the bell, the dog salivates because it associates the bell with food. The same thing happens when you listen to a getting ready activation every morning when you're doing your skincare. The same thing happens when you listen to a walking activation every afternoon for 15 minutes when you're walking the dog. Soon enough, you won't even need that audio to feel alive, invigorated, motivated, energetically aligned with your future self. It really creates this conditioning inside of you to remind you to connect these more, quote, mundane everyday moments with the feelings that you aspire to embody. So that's one of the really powerful tools when it comes to this. It's like it happens subconsciously. You don't even realize it. But when you listen to activations or visualizations in everyday moments with your eyes open, it really changes things without you even realizing it. It's magic.
Yeah. So to distinct what we're talking about here and what you've built from a system standpoint, a tool standpoint, how do activations differentiate from meditation?
Yeah, absolutely. It's completely different. There is a different use case. Meditation is about stillness. It's about calm. It's about zoning out, connecting with yourself, calming your nervous system, which we all know is amazing for you. But I wanted, especially at the time of my life when I wanted to transform, I needed something that would actually help me transform, not just calm me. I needed something to make me feel like my future self so I could start acting like her, thinking like her, and creating the life that she would have. So activations, unlike meditation, are about energy, focus, tuning in, not tuning out. You do them while you live your life, and they help you feel this big, fresh, exciting energy. We use composers that create movie scores, TV scores. They know how to create music to instruct you how to feel. I actually just flew out Judah, who is one of our top composers. He lives in LA. I call him the next Hans Zimmer because he creates the most magical music, and he knows how to create music that actually makes you feel a very specific way. So I actually got married about a month ago, and we got
Wow.
married in England. Yeah,
Congratulations.
and thank you very much. And Judah is one of our top composers for the app. Music is a huge component for the app. And he actually created a custom composition that I walked down the aisle to, and I kind of collaborated with him on it. And I actually flew him in from LA to, perform it live. And it's like that whole movie moment feeling that I've just been obsessed with because it really just changes your state so quickly. So going back to the point, we use a lot of composers, like him, to really instruct our users, our listeners, how to feel. And all of the content needs to feel like you are in the midst of this amazing, beautiful transformation. Okay. No music is allowed that makes you feel kind of like you're not moving towards anything. So it's a very specific type of audio. So pair that cinematic music with visualization, with words of possibility. And if you listen to that and flood your brain with that, it's like impossible
Yeah.
that you can't transform.
Yeah, it is. Again, and the best way I'm going back to my earlier statement for especially for people that are aware of what we do in functional medicine, it is, I would classify under the sort of the greater umbrella of a somatic practice because you're feeling it viscerally. It's not just this sort of thing that you're just doing and showing up. It is a state change for someone's biochemistry. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And listen, if you've ever wanted to meditate, but you found it maybe a little boring for you, or you can't sit still, or you try it for a week and then it falls off your to-do list, I honestly really encourage you to try something like activations, because I thought there was something wrong with me but I couldn't really stick to meditation. And listen, I don't want to rip on meditation. I know it's so good for you, but it's a different use case. It's for calming. It's not for transforming
Yeah,
as much.
exactly. I've heard you talk about how you're kind of leveraging the function of the reticular activating system and how that's such an important part of why this works from a neurochemistry standpoint.
Yes. Oh, the RAS is honestly one of the most fascinating things. So, for everyone listening, if you're not familiar with the reticular activating system, this is essentially the filtration system in our brains that essentially decides what we consciously notice and what we don't. Okay. So, there is so much information around us all of the time. And if we didn't have the RAS, our brains would literally explode. There would be way too much information. So that's why our brains have the RAS, because it's essential. But it actually can do us harm because the RAS essentially cherry picks what we consciously notice in our day-to-day life based on our beliefs and our self-image. So think about it this way. If you have the self-image of somebody that just will never be able to earn enough money and is always in this broke mindset and woe is me, like I'm never going to be able to amount to anything financially, if that's a deep core belief of yours and that is deeply rooted in your identity and your self-image, your RAS is going to show you proof as to why that is a fact. It's going to look for reasons in your life why you're a failure when it comes to that, why you're not able to move to the next step. And the same thing happens with something else, like, for example, health. You guys talk about health so much on this show. If you see yourself as someone who is just never going to be healthy, then guess what? Your RAS is going to look for reasons why that's true. But the opposite also is true. And that is the most fascinating part. If you begin to adopt new beliefs like, I am 100% responsible for my life, I can create the life of my dreams, it is possible for me, guess what? Your RAS is going to be tuned in and start noticing opportunities that you didn't notice before that were always there. So you might be at an event and meet someone and think to yourself, oh, that person would be an amazing business partner, or oh, maybe I should start this side project and it could turn into something. So a lot of people know of the RAS with like the red car example. You know, when you think you're going to buy this red car, you start seeing it everywhere. It's like the same type of thing. It's the same filtration system in your brain, but it remains true for the big things and the small things. So you have to be extra careful when it comes to how you see yourself, your self-image, your identity, and the beliefs that you hold. And the best way to change that, because I remember I used to be a victim to everything in life. I used to feel like there was nothing I could do. And I used to always look for reasons why I was a victim. I remember at one point, I was just living paycheck to paycheck, trying to make ends meet. I was really struggling and I felt like crap in my body. I was like 30 pounds heavier. I didn't like how I felt. And I had to make a decision. I had to start choosing different thoughts, becoming this different version of myself to experience a different life. So I just want to say, if you feel like you have these beliefs that are limiting, you can change them. And the moment you change them, your RAS starts to refilter.
Yeah. And this is tied to some degree. I'd love to get your thoughts on this in my mind, like, and explain maybe what I'm thinking about it, is that it's tied to the placebo effect in some way. And people see as a placebo effect is like, this, oh, it's just the placebo, it's fake. No, it's not that. The placebo effect is powerful neurochemistry and just the way that our physiology works. And conversely, the nocebo effect, like the power of belief, the power of intention, and how that shifts our biochemistry, how that shifts our physical state. And when people believe this thing's going to help me, there's a certain percentage of improvement there just from the power of the belief. And then conversely, the nocebo effect, I've seen reports in the scientific journals of people that believe they're dying, they believe they're sick. You mentioned these sort of limited negative belief, shame spirals, whatever you want to call them, that it's kept people sick. And in some cases, extreme cases, reported people actually die from the nocebo effect only to find upon autopsy they never had the disease they thought they had. Just the power of belief, the power of intention. And science, look, I want so much more science around this to see really what's going on. Let's explain even better, understand the mechanisms of action with these sort of ineffable things that we hear reports on. And there's enough exciting science, certainly, but it's such a field, it's a field that interests me so much. Do you see that as being kind of tied to what we're talking about here, as sort of the report,
Yes,
the way that
100%.
yeah.
And maybe people aren't doing a lot of studies on them because you can't profit from giving people the empowerment
Right.
that, their beliefs can really deeply, profoundly affect their lives,
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, okay, so what would you say to somebody that's a curmudgeon out there? They're like, you guys are just woo-woo, toxic positivity. I'm broke. I don't feel good. I am a victim in many ways. They may not say that, but they have a victim mindset. What would you say to somebody in that state right now?
Whatever you believe is true. So if you want to believe that your life is just going to be this way for the rest of eternity and you will never create the life that you deeply desire because you're a victim, then that's going to be your reality. But if you have the courage to step in to a new way of thinking and actually come to realize and look for proof as to why you actually can, then everything is going to change. There's always going to be someone that has started in a worse place than you, that was maybe was brought up in a certain area that was worse than you and had been played cards that were worse than yours. And there's always going to be a story of someone like that achieved what you want. So you can't give yourself excuses.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, it's up to you. That's why I said whatever you want to believe is true. So just understand that deeply. If you believe that, that will be your truth. And if you choose not to believe that, then you can create a new truth for yourself. And I know we're talking about changing your mind, changing your self-image, the RAS, and you're probably thinking, okay, but like, how do I actually do that?
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is that it's a little uncomfortable at first, but it's not that hard. Like, it's just it all comes down to just showing up and doing it. And I like to think about, programming your mind with new beliefs and changing your self-image, like the visual of there being a big paved road and then like a very small bunny trail on the side. And every single time you choose a new thought and you choose to, do a new thing or listen to an activation, take out your journal and start journaling in the morning or making the decision to, vote for being your future self, you start to take the bunny trail. And the more you take it, the bigger that trail will be. And soon enough, it will be just as big as that paved road that you once took.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to just make it clear that, listen, like, you're in control of your life. You are 100% responsible for your life. That is a core principle of how the world works. And that should be an empowering thought, because when I first had to adopt that belief, it was very hard for me because I was in victim mode for a very long time before I changed.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, yes, it can be hard to acknowledge that, but it is so exciting and so empowering and invigorating to even think about the possibility that you can actually design your future. What if it was up to you? So just lean in to that inspiration, that motivation. And I'm happy to get into kind of like my 2-step process that
Yeah.
I chat about in my book
Yeah.
when
Well,
it comes to
I definitely want to get into that. For sure, we'll give people practical tips for this. And like, to be clear, I think you probably would agree. There are certainly, to make no like confusion about this, as someone who talks to people for a living and seeing all different walks of life, there are certainly, without a doubt, people that are born in greater disadvantage situations and things you didn't ask for. That's not what we're saying here. But it's like, I've heard it said, like, if you want to hold onto your excuses so tightly, you can keep them. Like, nobody's going to take that away from you. Exactly what you're saying here. But it's like, what are you going to do with the cards you've been dealt with? And certainly many people have a bigger uphill to climb, but they can climb it. And it's more to surmount, but it's surmountable.
And what I always like to remind myself too, when I'm starting to feel like, oh wait, maybe I'm, not able to be my best self in this situation because of this external factor, I'm always need to remember it is the event plus your response that equals the outcome.
Mm,
E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. It's not just the event that equals the outcome. It's
yes.
also not just a response, because what are you responding to? It is the E plus R equals O. So the event is 50% of the equation. Your response is 50% of the equation. And just you have to be okay with that. Yes, of course, we can't control so much that happens to us. We can't control if we get a health, report that comes back and it says something terrible. We can't control if someone we love, breaks up with us. We can't control really crappy things that happen in our lives, but we can control 50% of the outcome, which is our response. And that is the biggest thing that I always have to remind myself when I'm feeling that way.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad we clarified that for people, because certainly I want to have compassion and grace to people, because 50% of that, whatever percentage you want to give it, like there are a lot of really negative events that some people don't get that other people do get, and that's we're not like whitewashing that and ignoring that and gaslighting people to say that it's 100%. But what are you going to do? What's that other part of it? What is that response? It's so important. I see people up against seemingly insurmountable things, but start to have this state change, and there's a grace around it. They can push through it. They can really achieve things that are even great. Like I've heard it said, and it's like trite when you're going through it, but it's really important. Like for the greater the darkness, the greater the propensity for light there is to
Love
be.
that.
Like what's the potential? And I see people that go through really heavy darkness. They're creating more light than if somebody didn't go through it. But you have to go through it. What's your response? Okay, so I'd like to go back to your dark time, and then we'll get practical tips after this. You mentioned kind of not being a great place. I in preparation for our conversation today, I think you had a couple dollars in your bank account at one point. Can you go to that dark point? Because I think people hearing the nitty gritty and not just like, oh look, I made it, but like where you came from, I think is really important here to
Yeah.
set the context.
Yeah, I remember a particular moment where I'd literally under $10 in my bank account. Yeah, I was living very much so paycheck to paycheck, and really trying to make my entrepreneurial dreams a reality. Um, you know, I didn't come from a very wealthy family. My parents, bless them, I love them. They're artists, so I kind of grew up in a household where money was always a very insecure topic, and there was a lot of remortgaging and a lot of big fights around money, some bankruptcies in the family, just a very kind of negative environment when it comes to financial freedom. That was something I never had experienced as a kid. And I honestly think that was probably the reason why I was so hungry to create financial success for myself. And it was my only focus for a very long time. I think now, obviously, that's changed a lot. Since I've achieved the dreams that I've had, I've realized, okay, money is amazing, but it's not like the only thing. So, since then, I've obviously changed a lot on, now looking at the whole picture. But yeah, I definitely, money was a very big motivator for me because I didn't have a lot growing up. And so that was a very dark time for me, and I needed to create something out of nothing. And I tried so many different things. And, over the past decade, I've had many entrepreneurial ventures, and, finally found something that really stuck. And, went from under $10 my bank account to now, owning a business worth multiple tens of millions of dollars. And, that I think as a young woman is something that I'm not shameful to share, because I didn't have a lot of examples like me when I was, kind of on my journey. So that is one of the biggest kind of tiers that I
Mm-hmm.
transformed. But really, Will, it was every area of my life. Financially is a very easy one to look at because it's like numbers. I went from X to Y.
Mm-hmm.
But, for my health, I struggled a lot with my body image back in the day, and I really didn't feel healthy mentally and physically. And they affected each other. I would go out a lot, drink a lot, party a lot, kind of felt very lost in life at that phase. and, really didn't treat my body with love. And, yeah, so I also just really disliked how I felt, how I
Mm-hmm.
looked. And that was a big, 180 that I had. And, with this self-image psychology work that I teach, I had transformed physically because I learned how to become my future self before actually materially becoming her. So I started making decisions like her. I started listening to activations reminding me
Mm-hmm.
of who I am and how I act and the habits I have. And even just the past year, I've refined my physical body even more. And I was in a place where I was very happy, but I wanted to tone up a little before my wedding, no shame in saying that. And I listened to this activation we have on the app. It's titled Let Yourself Lose Weight. And it's just a very simple, like 3-4 minute activation. And it just reminds me that, like, I can step into this version of myself now.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be, excuse me, too hard. And I just had that one on repeat, and I very successfully, toned up and feel great, and have maintained that. So, from a physical standpoint, I transformed from my mental health and my confidence. I was so anxious. I was so unsure of myself. I was so judgmental of myself, and I feel like I have the most beautiful relationship with myself now. And yeah, relationship wise, a fun story. I just got married, I mentioned a month ago, and Ben, he was actually my first boyfriend. We met 8 years ago. So around the time that you and I did our podcast.
I love it.
That's like
I'm gonna take credit for that. I'm gonna take credit for
yeah, yeah. Maybe it
that.
was just you had something to do with it. Um, so we met on October 13th, 2017. And at the time, I was still recording my own activations before I ever made them public. And actually, on October 12th, the day before, I have an activation, a handmade, homemade activation on my phone from October 12th, the day before, me describing my dream relationship, my dream partner. And he was my first boyfriend, and I met him the
Wow,
following day. So that's a big
that
coincidence.
is so
So
cool.
yeah,
That
that's a big kind of,
amazing. So like the state change and what you can draw to yourself. So what were some of the top, like the most harmful limiting beliefs that you had? Because I think it's a lot of people will relate to this and how those beliefs kept you in this cycle where you couldn't get out of it. And it wasn't until you kind of started embodying your future self now that started creating that state change. So can we go through? It seems
mm,
like people call it like a poverty mentality or a scarcity mentality, I guess would be another way of putting it.
yeah.
Was that number one, you think, because it's a ripple effect of so many different things?
I'll actually be honest and say my biggest limiting belief was this is going to be really hard to achieve.
Got it.
And that's really interesting. And this actually presses some buttons sometimes. My book, Activate Your Future Self, the subtitle is How to Effortlessly Become Your Happiest, Healthiest, and Wealthiest Self. And I use that word effortlessly, but I need to obviously explain what I mean, because obviously, you can't just snap your fingers and it all appear. But from my experience, transforming every aspect of my life and also helping tens of thousands of people transform through my work, what I've realized is there's a hack. There is a shortcut, and it can be effortless to transform. What I'm trying to say is when you focus on the root, think about it like an onion with all these different layers. If you think about your self image, your identity as the core of the onion,
Mm.
and if that's the only thing that you try to change, every other layer on top of that effortlessly changes, like the ripple effect. So if you want to start, toning up and losing weight, and you just go from matter to matter, and you essentially tell yourself, okay, I'm starting Monday, I'm going to start this diet, and I'm not eating any carbs, and I'm going to wake up every morning at 5 a.m. and go to the gym. If you just go straight to that, you're definitely going to fail. No wonder, because you're not going to the core of the onion, your self-image. If you just first start working on your beliefs and how you see yourself and the personality that you have, And if you just first start to prime your brain and tell yourself constantly and listen to things that remind you constantly that you are already a healthy person that feels light and strong in their body and that lives a life where they are active every day, and you become that person first, then you're going to feel weird if you don't wake up and go to the gym and eat healthy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it all starts with that. And that's what I mean by effortless. When you first just hack the system and adjust and tune your identity, then all of the actions and the habits and all of the other things that you need to do to get there
Mm-hmm.
become effortless. You feel weird if you don't do them because it's so much of a part of you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is exactly what I teach telehealth patients, and I'm so excited now that Activations is out. I can this is a tool they can tap into and utilize on their own. Okay, so the number one limiting belief for you was that things would be hard. That's a powerful statement, is that the sort of arduous heaviness. That's why I'm always talking about having a grace and lightness to it, because I see this sort of, when you look at people that have different states of being, the people that choose hard all the time, right? And they're attracting that in their life when they're kind of coming into the world with this sort of frenetic energy. I used an analogy in one of my books. I forget which one it was, actually. It was maybe Intuitive Fasting or Gut Feelings, but how I use the analogy of a car. And if somebody is like a high-end, whatever, a Ferrari, I don't even know what nice cars are, a Mercedes, whatever, versus my first car was a 93 Toyota Celica. I took care of my Toyota Celica. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but you know what I'm saying. Some old car that you're like is banged up, beat up. It's not in good quality. How do people treat those cars? Where do they park? How do they fuel it? How do they wash it? How do they clean it? How do they do everything with that car? You know what I'm talking about here. So many people see themselves as the old beat up jalopy, the lemon, versus this high-end car. And that's what you're talking about, is like seeing yourself as the Ferrari, as the Mercedes, as a whatever. Pick your favorite high-end car, because that will what are you eating? How are you getting up and moving your body? What's the company that you keep? What are the things you're looking online, right? I mean, that's sort of the cascade effect that happens when we have this identity shift.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly. This is spot on. And the reality is too, you just have to bring it back to really tuning in with your mortality. And this is something I think about a lot. It's like, we get to live this one life, okay? We have one chance at living a life. Why are we making decisions to spend our time in this one life feeling crappy about ourselves, making this, this hard thing to finally become something we're not, and kill ourselves in the process? Like, why don't we just start doing things that allow the process to be enjoyable? I always think about that. I love this work, and people love activations and the work that I teach, because it really comes down to just like this, becoming your future self now, feeling like that version of you that you want to be now, and then allowing that to guide you and help you, but that brings you to the moment, and it allows you to just feel happy and present while you're out trying to improve your life. Because listen, I'm all for self-improvement. I actually don't believe that being 100% present all the time and not ambitious at all is the answer. I know a lot of yogis and people like to say that being 100% present is the only goal. I think 60, 70, 80% of the time, being so present is so important. But the other 20, 30% of the time, I think humans are goal seeking creatures. I think we get so much satisfaction from improving ourselves. And that's
Yeah.
no thing to be shameful of. But I think there's this perfect balance, this dance, because we, again, get to live this life once. We want to enjoy it. So this is what this work is all about. It's like
Mm-hmm.
feeling alive. And I always say, and I've actually said this in my book, There's a whole section on this. I want to feel alive more. I want to feel numb less. And numbness is the opposite of aliveness. So, what creates you to feel numbness? Okay, overeating, over drinking, any type of drug, mindless scrolling on social media, binging TV, any of those things that are mind numbing that make time go by super quickly and make
Mm-hmm.
you feel like crap. But then the opposite of that is activities that make you feel alive. That's deep conversation, present conversation with people. That is, maybe being with your pet and being present with your pet and going on a long walk in nature and, listening to music that inspires you, or an activation. That's kind of all activations. I really want them to make people feel alive. That's
Mm-hmm.
my obsession with aliveness is really weaved into my work there. Whether that's, just spending time and having a bath and romanticizing the moment, that makes time go by slowly. That
Mm-hmm.
makes you really enjoy the moment, the time we have, right? So that's something I want to, always, remind people of. It's like your aliveness is what will make you feel like this life is
Mm-hmm.
juicy and beautiful and fully lived.
Yeah, amen to that. And for everybody who listens to the podcast, you always hear me ad nauseum talking about you can't heal a body you hate, and that's more than just a nice soundbite. That is what's going on. Like somatically, if you have this identity shift that you are worthy of wellness, you are worthy of healing, you are worthy of wholeness, how will that influence how you eat and drink and live your life, right? All the things you doing is respecting your body enough, respecting your life enough to nourish it with things that love you back. And avoiding something that doesn't love you back is not restrictive, it's self-respect. And that's the identity shift that we're talking about. And I love because activations is like that. Okay, how do I do that? And it starts seeing yourself as the worthy creation that you are. All right.
Yeah.
So what are some of your? I'm going to give the for people to try it free. Again, it's activations.com/Will Cole. Guys, try this for free. What are some of your favorite activations personally right now? Like you just got married, living your life, building the business. What are you going to the most?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have over 700 activations on the
Yeah,
app.
it's a
So,
lot. There's
and
so
we
much to pick from.
release, yeah, there's a lot. We release, 3 to 5 completely new ones every week as well. Our, audio team, our audio engineers, our production team are honestly so incredible. I'm so inspired by them every day. I'm so excited to see kind of what new stuff they come up with. And, so mine's always changing, but it's interesting because, the way that people use activations is always different. We'll have some users that will listen to all of the new content only. They like to listen to fresh content. They never really listen to the same thing twice. But then we have users like me where I get like fixated on one or two activations, and it's all I listen to for like a month. And then I'll move on to the next one. It's kind of
Interesting.
how I listen to music too. I don't know what that says about my personality, but I definitely have my favorites, and in the app you can actually create your own playlist, create your own favorite list, and we always have new content in there. So definitely fun to explore. But my personal favorite ones recently, I have been obsessed with our targeted visualizations category. So we have so many categories from, walking, cleaning, cooking, getting ready, legs up wall, like workout, like every type of category. But we have a specific category that you can listen to wherever, whenever, and it's called the targeted visualization category. And this is very money focused. And I'm trying to hit some big goals, with my business right now. It's kind of like a game for me to try to kind of hit these new milestones. So we have a manifest money subcategory within that we have activations from manifest $1,000 all the way to manifest 100 million. So, and everything in between. So that category, we spent so much time with our audio team making the music so cinematic, so epic, really state changing here. And you kind of just like have to listen to it to understand like how it makes you feel. And this audio is designed to make you feel like your wealthiest self, to really allow this new potential, the new opportunities of wealth to come your way. Like, you're going to start noticing different things in your life when you start listening to these. You're going to start showing up differently in meetings. You're going to start just thinking new thoughts and ideas when I listen to these activations, especially the ones, on the higher end, like very big thinking type of numbers. It helps me think about my business differently. So, it always comes down to fact, but I will say some of my favorites are the manifest money category. And also there's this one activation called Be Her Now. It's more of a female focused one. And it's a short little activation with really amazing music that you can listen to wherever, whenever. And it just reminds you to be her now for our female users. And it really just changes your state very quickly. So I love that one. I also love all the ones in our getting ready category. We have a lot of getting ready activations. For me, I'm like a morning activator. I'd love to just listen to it to set the tone for my day. So while I'm doing my makeup or, doing my skincare, I'll listen to one, confident energy in the morning, or feel like wealthy energy while you're kind of like doing your makeup. We have skincare activation. So I would say those, 3, 4 are my favorites at the moment. What about you? Have you tried any that you
Yes.
love?
Okay. I have my recently done ones. I love the fact that you. I mean, we've kind of said this already, but I want to be clear. Like it's getting you. There are seated activations. To be clear, there are seated
Yeah.
ones. There are like ones that you can lie down or be seated, but many of them are the things like you mentioned, the mundane. It's making the mundane magical. Like the things you're doing
Yes.
every day. How can you use almost these things that we do that can be mindless, but make them more of a present moment awareness. Like you're being fully in the moment now, but it's that balance of being and doing, right? You're sort of like being through the doing in a way. And I like the cleaning one because I
Yes.
was cleaning my bed, making my bed and cleaning the bed, putting my clothes away, folding my clothes, the calming self-love while cleaning. Okay, I could just make my bed, fold my clothes, do my laundry, or I could actually use that practice as a mindfulness somatic experience, as a state change of self-compassion, self-love, which has so much exciting research of it lowering inflammation levels, improving cognitive focus, brain function, a lot of cool science around it. So I wanted a chance to like use my cleaning time as a form of self-compassion.
I love that. That a lot of people are obsessed with the cleaning ones. So
Why
I'll
not?
be honest and
Why not?
say
I
that
mean,
I hate cleaning.
talk about stacking. I mean, talk about stacking. You're gonna do it anyways. You're gonna do it
I know, I
anyways.
know. I love them too if I clean, but I like really dislike cleaning. So like my husband usually does a lot of the cleaning around here.
That's funny.
So
But like
I love it.
the getting ready
Yeah.
ones are great too. Like we're all getting
The
ready.
walking ones
The
though,
walking,
Will, the
yes.
walking category is actually my all-time favorite. I don't know how I didn't mention that. Like morning walk to set goals for your day is one I have on
Yeah.
repeat. I love the walking category because it's like it also is so transformative because you're listening to these very, very powerful, like motivating audios while moving in a forward motion with your body. There's something that happens there where you just like, I often get full body goosebumps
Hmm.
and like just my whole energy shifts like crazy when I listen to the walking ones. So I would actually say try those. And there's one called Become Your Magnetic Future Self that has been played like 200,000 times on
Oh
the
my
app, and
gosh.
it is so good.
That's awesome. Yeah, the walking ones are wonderful, right? Because again, if you walking zone 2 exercise, it's great for improving
Yes.
oxygenation, increasing BDNF, all just in and of itself, all the health benefits of walking, but you can sort of habit stack in a way with these different, and can you use the walking itself as a mantra in a way somatically? Yeah, I did the get out of a funk. So if you're having like a bad day, it's a 5 minute
Yeah.
walking activation. I think it's very good use of your time.
Yes, absolutely. And we actually have some users that will like, listen to a 2-minute pep talk activation while they brush their teeth every morning. And like that's like their routine. It's like they can't brush their teeth without listening to their 2-minute pep talk. And it's just like one of those small habits. Like, can you imagine the compound effect of doing something that small every day for like a year? it's crazy how
Yeah.
different your life could look.
Yeah, 100%. Now, in preparation for our conversation, because like I don't like I'm on social media, but I don't like listen so much what people say. But in preparation for our convo, you talk about the lucky girl syndrome that apparently has gone viral on social media, and
Yeah.
people get triggered, people get pissed off. What buttons have you pushed with lucky girl syndrome?
Honestly, I don't even get a lot of negative comments. I think the people that are in, this work, and I'm assuming people that listen to your podcast too, like they're into this kind of stuff. Like, of course, there's always going to be haters online, but I feel quite lucky. Well, maybe I have lucky girl syndrome. I feel quite lucky to say that I actually don't see negative comments. I think a lot of the time the skeptics will try the 2 week free trial and also like think they're going to hate it and then like end up loving it. We've actually had some testimonials, some comments and emails from people saying like, I downloaded this because I just wanted to take advantage of the 2 week trial, like thinking I was actually immediately going to unsubscribe, already kind of going into it with a negative mindset. But then I just listened to a couple and I realized, wow, like this is actually really good. So I would say I actually haven't seen any
That's
negative
funny.
comments,
Well, that's because you
but
probably
yeah,
have a state change. You're not paying attention to like the,
maybe,
whatever
yeah,
the
maybe that's
negative.
RAS.
But no, I mean, oh, let me be clear. Overwhelmingly positive. But anything, look, like you cannot have something that goes viral and not have people say negative. I mean, it's just part of it, right? It's the yin and the yang.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
people say, and anytime people talk about this, but well, first of all, let's define it. Like, what is lucky girl syndrome?
Yes, and I did not invent it. It was a big trend that came up on TikTok like a year or two ago. We just have created a lot of content around it. So
Got
we
it.
have
Got it.
like
Got it.
the Lucky Girl. Yeah, we didn't invent it, but we saw it as an opportunity because people were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so aligned with the principles that we teach of like the RAS reprogramming and stuff like that." So we have so much content in the app that is Lucky Girl themed. So we have a whole Lucky Girl challenge that's been played tens of thousands of users just over the past few months since we have launched that. We have, all of these different activations that just help you get into that lucky girl energy. And essentially, the whole gist of it that went viral is just people online talking about their experience since they adopted a mindset of they are a lucky person. They have lucky girl energy, is what they call it, that they started seeing opportunities and lucky things happen in their life like crazy. And that's again, like everything we spoke about when it comes to the RAS, it is exactly what we've discussed in this episode. People that have lucky girl syndrome that are embodying this new way of thinking are literally becoming luckier because they're seeing reasons why and they're embodying this new energy and they're attracting it
Mm-hmm.
into their life. So we have a ton of content around that. And it's become very popular with our
I
audience.
love it. Well, again, it's popular things. When it strikes a nerve, you get the good,
Yeah.
and then get the naysayers. But it's the people. Anytime we talk about these topics, it's the same old, same old. We are talking about unrealistic optimism. We're talking about magical thinking, toxic positivity. Those are the main criticisms. Again, like what's your take for the people that say that?
I say try it for 30 days, just give it a good shot. And then you can go back to thinking the way you thought and being a naysayer and living on that, hill. Like, I'm okay with you living on that hill and having those beliefs. Like, listen, but just try it for like 30 days and see how it impacts your life. Because if you had the option to be negative in life or quote more very realistic, if people like to say,
Mm-hmm.
and be unhappy, or you have the choice to be happy and see the positive and optimistic side of things, and obviously still realistic. Like I'm a very realistic person, but I look at reasons why it can happen instead of reasons why it can't. And I
Mm-hmm.
also think a core belief of mine as someone who shares things online and shares my message, like I'm in the business of empowering people, not victimizing people. So all my content is always going to be about how you can and how you can create this beautiful life for yourself. I'm not really in the camp of like telling people why they can't. So that's just my personal belief and brand. But I would say to the naysayers, like, listen, I respect your opinion, and whatever you've gone through in life up to this point has made you believe this thing, and that's totally valid. But what if the other side was true?
Mhm.
Just think, what if? Okay, play with that thought. You don't need to believe it fully. You don't need to start becoming a, you know, crazy optimist, screaming it from the rooftops. Just what if you tried out some of this work of personal development, of self-image psychology,
Mhm.
reprogramming, of, becoming your best self, and thinking new thoughts that
Mhm.
could really well improve your life just for 30 days. I promise you,
Yeah.
you'll see a difference.
Yeah, right. And look, I think the difference here is to be clear on the difference in what we're talking about here and the effectiveness of it and how that differentiates from something that maybe could be truly classified as toxic positivity, which I think at that term, like many terms in pop psychology on social media, it's thrown around too flippantly and dilutes maybe some true aspects of this. But toxic positivity, in my mind, is denying reality or denying what is. You're saying I accept what I am here now, but I don't want to stay here, which is why I want to have a state change. That's the main difference here. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And I'm also very okay with people living the lives that they want to live.
Yeah, right. If you want to stay
Yeah.
negative and a Karen about everything, then yeah, believe me, there's
Yeah.
a lot of people that will build you up to stay there.
Yeah, and I'm just sharing what's worked for me. And listen, Will, my life, I'm blessed. Every single day I wake up and I pinch myself because the life that I've created is exactly what my younger self wanted. And I'm so grateful for her, committing to this work before seeing it tangibly be created in front of her. And I'm just sharing what's worked for me because I believe it's possible for everyone. I want to help people get there. And living the life of your wildest dreams is everything that you imagined
I
and
love it.
more. It's
I love it.
it's flipping incredible.
Amazing. Can you get? You were mentioning it earlier. I want to give people that two-step process that they can start
Oh
doing right
yes.
now. Let's get into it.
Okay, so in my book, Activate Your Future Self, I share my kind of, very well known 2-step process to transformation. Okay, it's very simple. I like to simplify things in my work. I don't want to overcomplicate anything, very much simplify it. The first step is clarity. You must first get crystal clear on who your future self is, on how they move, how they act, their posture, how they dress, how they speak, what they have, how they have it. You must first get clarity on who you want to become and what they have. And then step 2 is becoming. You must become them in everyday moments, starting right now before the material has happened. You must become them before those things start showing up in your life, those things start becoming achieved. And that is the trick. Clarity and becoming. And I'm telling you, now it sounds so simple. There are a lot of intricacies to it. And in my book, we go right in and I really hold your hand on how to do all of it. But if you just follow that simple 2-step process, your life will look unrecognizable in a matter of time. 2 simple steps. You must get clear first because you need to know where you're going. And then you need to become them. And when I say clarity, I don't just mean, understanding from a logical perspective. I mean clarity on what it feels like energetically. The future self frequency is what I call it, what it feels like energetically to be your future self. So, in the book and even in the activations, we have a lot of content in both areas about your future self frequency and how to actually establish it and understand what it is. And then essentially, and I can kind of really high level explain it now if you guys want to do it at home without the book and app. So basically, you want to connect with your body and you want to think about 3 to 5 prominent emotions that your future self lives in. So for me, I'll give a very simple example. Let's say love, abundance, health, and awe. Okay, so let's say those are my 4: love, abundance, health, and awe. So what I'll do is first with my body, I just feel my body, and it's just feeling how you feel. And then I just ask myself to feel the feeling of love in my body. How does it feel? Recognize it, acknowledge it. So for me, love feels like a beautiful warm emotion in my chest area, kind of around my shoulders. Like that's the physical energy and sensation. And then once I have that, I can hold on to that and I don't, stop feeling love. I hold on to the feeling of love and then I mix in the next emotion. So abundance. For me, abundance means, just an abundance of happiness and health and wealth in my life. I love to be financially free. It's amazing to feel that freedom and I really enjoy it. So I want more of that and to continue living that way. So I have love and then I have abundance. So what does abundance feel like to me and my unique perception of it? So then I mix it into the love. So now I'm feeling love and abundance together. Okay. And I'm going through this quickly, but you kind of want to spend, 10, 20 minutes on this. And then I bring in the next one, which is health. So holding on to love and abundance and now weaving in health. Okay. I feel that in my body. And then we move on to awe. I always like awe as part of my emotions. Kind of a random when people are like, oh, awe, wonder, awe. But I really love feeling the magic of being alive. It really makes me feel a certain way that I enjoy. And I like to, embody that every day. So then that's my last one. And then I'll kind of figure out what it feels like all together as I've retained all those emotions at once. And then I feel the frequency, the energy of my future self. And that is what I essentially select when I am becoming her, when I'm being her in everyday moments, when I'm listening to an activation, even when I'm listening to nothing. You don't need any activations to do this. You can just feel it in your body while you're, unloading the dishwasher, when you're in line at the grocery store and you're twiddling your thumbs or scrolling on your phone. How about you just stop and just feel your body, get into your future self frequency and be her now? And then you're just you're practicing embodying that future self frequency in everyday moments. And listen, we spoke a lot about, the hard science here, the neuroscience of it all, but there is also a completely different side of things that we haven't really dove into yet, of the energetic side of it. I speak about this in my book. There's proof of biofields around our body. They can be measured, 3+ meters around us. And our energy creates a lot of our life. And there's a lot of proof to talk about it. There's a lot that I share in my book when it comes to research behind that. So the biofield is something that's affected by your energy. So if you're walking around throughout your day embodying that future self frequency, like things are gonna really start changing. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other conversation, but something I definitely also align with. And yeah, that's how you create your future self frequency.
So good. It is frequency. And you see this sort of burgeoning field that's been in sort of aspects within wellness for many, 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 many years. It's nothing new, and certainly within antiquity. But there's a lot of, I think, in science catching up with antiquity yet again, of frequency medicine and understanding the hertz and the resonance and dissonance of all of these things. And we are made up of energy. This should not be considered woo-woo, but yet it still is. But science is catching up slowly but surely of understanding like these things. You mentioned biofields and frequency medicine. It is anything but woo-woo, which is such a slight, reductive, pejorative against something that's so beautiful, right? And I love that you mentioned awe being it, because that's something, a word that I think of a lot actually on social media, or even I'll share it because I'm using it during my breath work, during my meditation, my activations of just looking at things like sunset, looking at things like nature, and like the research around Shinrin-yoku and forest bathing and taking in nature with all of your senses. And that word awe always comes up. And even for people that have like a spiritual or religious background, when the Bible says fear God and talks a lot about fearing God, the Hebrew word is ira. Ira is not fear as it is. It is awe. It is awe and wonder of the ineffable, which I think is a beautiful thing that a lot of us in modernity don't cultivate that feeling of awe enough, and things that are worthy of awe in our lives, and how that is such a powerful tool to have these state changes that we're talking about.
Yeah, and listen, I go through life with a curious lens, and I'm seeing all of these signs everywhere because I like to research a lot. I like to learn about the neuroscience. I like to learn about more of the spiritual side of things. And what I've noticed is that all of these different modalities and belief systems are kind of saying the same thing in different languages. Like a spiritualist will call this work the law of attraction or manifestation. A religious person will call it prayer. An atheist might call it the placebo effect. A scientist will call it, neuroplasticity or self-image psychology or the RAS. It's like
Yeah.
the same thing in different languages, and it's so interesting. All I know is that whatever it is, it works and
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah. Exactly. That's such a good point. It's like, yeah, the terminology, what we're talking about, it doesn't really require, it's like believing in gravity. It's there whether you believe it or not. The gravity is there. And I see the same thing with what we're talking. It's just how humans function with life itself. Whether you realize it or not, it's kind of, not the point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah. My friend, before you go, the podcast is called The Art of Being Well. At the end, we have Your Art of Being Well. What's the worst tasting healthy food that you eat? You don't do it for the taste. It's kind of disgusting, but you do it for the health benefits.
Ooh, that's a good question because I actually don't tend to eat things that I don't like. Well, I guess, you know what? I don't eat a lot of this because I just hate it, but I hate okra. I like all food. I just hate okra.
Hey.
And maybe it's not the right answer to your question because I don't eat it because I just don't eat things I don't like.
But
But
no, but it's actually a great answer because it's just on your mind is like on that hate list
I
so
just hate
much.
okra.
That's funny.
Broccoli, give it to me all day long. I will eat it. I will eat wheatgrass. I'll eat chlorophyll. Like I eat healthy. I love healthy food. I love it. Whatever. But okra, it's not my vibe. It's just my one food I'm not
I
into.
love that. That no one's ever said that. That's a great answer. Do you take supplements, and if so, what are maybe two lesser known supplements that people should know about?
Okay, interesting. So, yes, I'm taking supplements. I'm on a few right now. I'm looking at them. So, one that I'm taking is Bend Beauty DHA EPA. And that's helping with like inflammation. I actually do a lot of health tests. So, like, I know which ones, like, my naturopath will tell me, which ones are good for me. And I've done a lot of like genetic testing and, all this type of stuff. So, obviously, like everyone listening, like, what's working for me is not necessarily for everyone, but I think probably everyone could benefit from, that one, omegas. And then I'm also taking, one that is not for everyone. I've just started taking prenatals because I'm thinking of starting my conception journey in the next little while. So I'm starting them months before to kind of prep my body. And then I have like a choline supplement because I'm quite low in choline naturally. So I'm taking those two. And then I have a magnesium spray that I put on my body before bed. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I'm taking at the
I
moment.
love it. What's the weirdest, most out of the box thing you've done for your wellness that you're willing to admit on a podcast?
Okay. I don't know if I didn't think I was going to go here, but wow, this is really something I haven't shared.
We have to go there, Mimi.
Okay, now
What
we
is
have
it?
to. I'm being way
No
too
going back
okay.
now.
Years ago, I basically went and I did an assisted drug journey. I don't even know what the drug was. They wouldn't tell me. They said only 2,000 people in the world have done it. That's probably bullshit now looking back. And it cost $10,000.
Wow.
And they don't tell you what it was. It was in the middle of Tennessee. And my friend, who's like a very successful businessman, was like, it's like the limitless drug, Mimi. Like they don't tell you what it is, but all the billionaires go and get all the great ideas for their business. And I was like, all right, sign me up, even though I like don't do drugs and I like don't like drugs. But anyway, I was really, I was trying to, figure out a few things with my business and I wanted some like ideas. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go. So I spent $10,000 to do a mystery drug that I still don't know what it was. Looking back, I think it was probably a mix of like MDMA and mushrooms or something, but it was like in a clinical setting. It's not like I was in the middle of nowhere. Like I had like a nurse there and like a shaman there. So it was, well, not fully clinical. It was a bit of a mix.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a really interesting life experience.
What was your experience like? Would you do it again?
I don't think I would do it again because I don't think I need to. Like, I don't have much I want to fix in my life right now. Listen, I'm all for people doing, like, I'm kind of like, I'm a very curious person, like I was mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the phase of okay, what if this is really like
Mm-hmm.
the limitless drug? Like, oh my gosh. It wasn't for me, but it was really interesting because they get you to record yourself and you talk out loud the whole time and you have headphones on listening to music. It was just like a really kind of interesting experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't regret it. I don't think I'd do it again. It was an interesting experience, but I'm not into drugs, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would do it again.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That's a great. People heard it here first. I think I've heard. Here's how bad it is. Is like when you're in the wellness space long enough. I think I've heard of this place before because it involves Tennessee. It involves some sort of proprietary psychedelic. It involves
Yeah.
billionaires. Like
Yeah.
I think I've heard exactly what you're talking about. I forget who told me
Yeah.
about it, but
I don't think I'm allowed sharing the name of it,
Yeah.
but like we could talk after.
Yeah.
You can tell me.
I forget who told me. I honestly, someone told me about it, and I forget.
Some people swear by it,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah. But, you know.
That's funny. That's funny. What's your favorite at this point in your life? What's your favorite restaurant in the world? And when you're there, what do you order?
Ooh, that's a great question. Favorite restaurant in the world?
Or
Gosh.
right now? Like, what are you digging right now? If you eat out, like, what do you order?
Okay, so there is. Right now. I'm in London. As I mentioned to you off air, I live in London from May to September every year, and then we live in the Bahamas the rest of the year. So, love the Bahamas, but there aren't really any good restaurants there. Food quality isn't amazing. Also, they import everything from the U.S. And no offense to you Americans, U.S. food is just not as good as European food.
We're trying to change that. We're trying to change that
I know,
slowly,
I know.
but surely.
Hopefully it happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I'm in London, well, we live here in Chelsea in London, and just around the corner from where we live, there is this like mom and pop Italian restaurant, and they import all of their ingredients from Italy. And we like to go there like once a week for a very, laid back dinner. And the other day we went and they had this amazing sea bass that is just wrapped. It was cooked in like just wax paper or like in foil or whatever, and infused with like garlic and rosemary. It's just so simple. And you have that, and they just bring you veggies, like whatever they have, of the day. And all of the olive oil and butter and bread, like all of it is just such high quality. So that's actually my favorite food at the moment.
I love it.
I would say just simple, healthy quality. I'm a qualitarian, so like I'll eat a burger, but if it's like grass fed, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll eat everything, but it's like just I really care about quality. So that place definitely has my heart.
I love that. Great answer. Mimi, it's been great, blessing conversation. Thank you for coming on. Where do people learn about all the things we talked about and what you have going on?
Thank you so much for having me, Will. So if you guys want to read my book, I think that's something I'm really proud of that we released this year. I'm pretty sure it's discounted heavily on Amazon right now. So if you just go to Amazon and you type in Activate Your Future Self by Mimi Bouchard, that is my book. And please do, check it out. I think it is pretty much the most streamlined personal development book that I've, spent a very long time writing. So I'm very proud of that. And I suggest you guys go pick that up. And then if you want to find me on Instagram, it's just at Mimi Bouchard, even though I'm kind of always offline. Like I delete Instagram off my phone for months at a time. So I'm here and there. And then, Activations is my app. And if you guys want to get the best deal, go to Dr. Will's link. It's activations.com/Will Cole. And it's better to go to that link than go to the App Store because we can't offer discounts on the App Store. So for you to get the best discount, just go to his link. You can get 2 weeks free. We also offer a money back guarantee. I don't want to force anyone into anything with this app. I really want to let it speak for itself. And I have full confidence that if you try it, you're going to feel the effects. And 2 weeks is a very good amount of time for you to just take advantage of the free trial and just feel the difference. So that's where you can find Activations. We release up to 5 new pieces of content every week. And
I love it. Activations.com/Will Cole, everybody. Do a 2-week challenge with me. Let me know which your favorite activations are. Let me know in the comment section wherever you're watching this. If you're watching this on video, if you're listening to this, let me know. reach out to me. I want to know what your favorite activations are, if they were different than mine, if you like the same ones that I talked about, the walking and the cleaning ones. Thanks, Mimi, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.